Welcome to the Challenge Chronicles. I'm Devin Jordan. I'm with Rob McIntyre and Trace Armstrong. We are here to do a recap of the Challenge Ride or Dies, episode 12. Before we get started, we wanted to give a few patron shout-outs since we've been absolutely negligent in that for who knows how long. So this goes out to JT, AC Miller, and Cody Hansen. Thank you for your support. It's what keeps the podcast going. If you too would like to become a patron, you can go to patreon.com/The Challenge Chronicles and subscribe for $4 per month. We'll also leave a link in the show description below. With that, episode 12, The Challenge Ride or Dies. Let's give a couple of quick thoughts before we get into the Fast Five, where we recap episode 12. What did the two of you think?
I really liked it. I was thoroughly entertained. There was not a lot of the things that I despise, like, it was 2 rounds of a mission, and we didn't have a useless club scene. Like, it felt like, other than the dumb interrogation, everything went very quickly. And so I was very satisfied with what we got on our TV.
Yeah, I thought it was decent. There were at least a couple different moving parts to this episode. I also like that we got a little bit of people kind of playing the actual game at the foot, where people seem to really be trying to protect the ride or die outside of one notable exception, which is what they should be doing based on what the actual format is, even if they don't know that necessarily. So I thought all around it was a decent episode. Nothing special, but certainly not a bad one.
Yeah, I think that's my belief too. I thought it was all right. There were some good moments. I think one really good moment, and we'll get to that when we do the recap, but let's get into the Fast Five. Everyone comes back to the house and congratulates Amber. Casey says she feels good because her team has won 2 missions in a row now. And Devin says it's a male elimination week. Jordan talks about how it sucks to lose Nerys. Nelson says that he'll miss having someone to trust in Nerys around the house. And then we get into a conversation between Amber and Chauncey where they talk about her being an elimination, how the final is close, and about how together they want to start a family, get married, and get a house. Those are kind of the life goals that they've been discussing with each other. In the next scene, we get Johnny and Nany in a conversation. He said that he thought it would be ride or dies until the end, which I thought was kind of interesting. What did the two of you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, he still probably thinks it's going to go back that way, right?
Yeah,
Definitely.
He knows it's going to go back that way.
Well, he knows that it's not going to stay teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Certainly.
In the back of his head, I think that's definitely an option, and we talked about this over the last couple of the weeks. That I'm sure that's floating around in the house, that it could potentially go back to ride or dies, and I think that's why I think some of them. I bet you there is some type of suspicion that the players that have been eliminated haven't been completely eliminated to this point.
Yeah, and again, this is where we see, like, I'm sure we'll reference in a little bit, but Fessy talking to Moriah about, like, throw the mission here so I can stick around. We're seeing a little bit of that come into play. Like, that's what they should be doing in reality if they knew actually what was going on. But with the information they have, at least there seems to be some awareness that keeping your ride or die around is what you should be doing. I mean, again, they also, like, they mention who the ride or die is every 8 seconds on the show, so clearly it's still important.
Yeah. I like the conversation. I think it's one of those moments that really humanizes Bananas, which they don't often do on this show. And it kind of gave insight into, Nany and Bananas have had their ups and downs on and off the show. But at the end of the day, like, he legitimately does have her back, and it's not just gameplay. So I thought that was a cool little moment there.
I don't know. I thought it was bullshit and fluff. Like, we've gotten that the entire season. Like, we don't need to get that anymore. Like, it seems like every episode we get this. Johnny talking about how he's been impressed by how far she's gotten, and Nany says that they're looking out for each other while they're still in other teams. Is this just an indication that they're going to win, or at least go pretty far into the finals? I mean, come close to winning.
Yeah, it does seem like things are kind of zeroing in around 2 teams in particular in my mind.
Who would you say the other one is?
Tori and Devin.
I don't know. I don't think it has been as much as it has been Nany and Johnny.
I guess I feel like we got more of Johnny and Nany lately, whereas Tori's had her own storylines to combat with her ex-fiance. But I felt like earlier in the season, we certainly got quite a bit of Tori and Devin working together, and them being shown together. So I would still very much have them on top of my leaderboard, followed by Johnny and Nany.
Yeah, I still have my same top 4, except I think Fessy's going to wind up screwing himself in the next episode, and we'll talk about that later.
We get in a conversation after Johnny and Nany speak with each other, a conversation between. Is this where we get? Oh, this is where we get a random conversation between Nelson and Corey, where Nelson calls up.
I was like, as soon as that happened, I'm like, Devin absolutely hated this. He was about to throw a brick through his TV screen.
It wasn't my favorite moment in the episode.
It was useless and pointless.
It was dumb. Like, I don't even get it was just like a way that they could kind of shoehorn Corey into the storyline.
Yeah,
I don't really
Corey
get
involved. Corey's got a lot of Instagram followers, man. They want to keep him on. They want to keep him on TV.
If you had to guess what my favorite moment in this episode was, what would you guess? It was my favorite moment by far, not even remotely close.
I honestly don't know.
That Devin pulling out the Save Chauncey plan?
No, I didn't think that was that great. I thought I started to audibly die laughing when Jordan starts to talk at the end of the episode about his vote and about how someone dragged in their personal relationship to get them to do what get Jordan to do what they wanted. And I just knew he was going to say, I don't negotiate with terrorists. Like, I knew he was going to say it before he said it. And when he said it, I just started to crack up and thought that was pretty good. And then I thought it was good about how they started to like chirp back at each other, or at least Tori started to try and chew him out while they were both on the stage. I thought that was pretty good.
Obviously, they have their own dynamic. I do enjoy a good audience chirping back at each other during the elimination. So some just people in the middle of an elimination deciding to take the time to like yell at other people about something, like when Corey and Huey were yelling at each other last season on the elimination. That's what I'm here for.
Or even when people that are watching the elimination start to scream at each other, right?
I mean, those are some of the Tori last season.
Those are some of the most memorable eliminations that we have of all time. Even when you go back and look at Inferno 1 and the wild elimination between Katie Doyle and Julie.
That one. The other one I think that's really good people don't talk about.
Leah and Kendall. After
the Bananas Isaac elimination on Free Agents, when he and Jordan are yelling back and forth at each other, I get pretty into that. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's keep this going.
Yeah, that one where Zach and Trey lose on Rivals 2, but they think they've won, and Zach just heaves his helmet at the other people, and he starts screaming, only to find out he lost.
That's the thing with the artist elimination where it's so tough, right? Because we don't want the influencing outcomes, but you definitely want them involved.
I think you can do, but you can do one without having to do the other.
I think you just have the producers yell at them when they start doing stuff.
I think if you made it clear with them, they wouldn't do it, because it seems apparent that they really toe the line of what the producers want, because they do care about that a lot because they want to be recast.
Yeah, I guess that's fair for a large majority of them. There's some who I think wouldn't care as much, who just have so much equity or don't care to be back on the show. But for that middle grouping, yeah.
So we get the conversation between Fessy and Corey. Corey tells Nelson that he needs to take out Fessy and Johnny, which, I mean, realistically, he's probably right.
Yes.
Corey also says that Corey is astounded that Nelson has been working with Fessy. And this is where we get Nelson's existential moment about everything going on with his mom and about their relationship. And so this should be a pretty good indication that Nelson is going home.
Yeah, so like Jordan, it's a tough scenes for my guy here. I did think it was interesting too that he was like, yeah, you need to get rid of Fessy and Bananas, even though they were both on his team at this point. So clearly there's some indication like, yeah, we're not same teams.
We also don't know when this conversation took place. This could have taken place a month ago.
It could have been episode 2, right? Like, who knows?
Yeah,
exactly.
But it is the correct move because, like, I mean, Nelson has to know he's at the bottom of all their totem poles. So, like, you kind of have to work with him to a point, and then when you see an opportunity, you strike. And he said it, I think, last episode. He's like, man, I should have done something different when I had power because now I'm screwed. Like, he essentially said that.
I mean, I think if they ran it in pairs, I think he and Reese have it, and it was those 3 teams. I think he and Reese have a very good chance of winning that. But I don't know.
Well,
if
and
Corey had information.
It changing to the team format ruined Nelson's game completely.
Yeah, it's really.
And that's largely to do with Narice's ability, I would say, and not necessarily anything having to do with Nelson.
Yes.
No, it's because I think
she would have carried him to the win.
I mean, he can run. Like, he has very good endurance, clearly. But yeah, she would have been helping out quite a bit there.
In the next scene, we get a conversation between another phone conversation between Jordan and a friend that he has in the Ukraine. Jordan talks about the humanitarian work that he's been doing and that he's been helping ship supplies and evacuate people from the country, and about how the money that he wins when he does win goes a long way. There's just no way that Jordan and Anissa are going to win. And that's why...
Even with this format? Or even with the...
They're going to make the final. And I still have maintained that from day one. They're making the final, but they have zero chance of winning this final.
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to say that they make the final. I think anyone that thinks that they have a chance to win, I don't know. I mean, we've seen crazy shit happen.
Pat Mayo bet me that they wouldn't make the final. And I was like, you're crazy. They're making the final.
My thing is, like, there's no chance that they would deserve to win a final. Is what I would say.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Like, they could the producers could pull something out of thin air, and everyone else gets DQ'd or whatever, like USA, and then they win. But if there's no chance they would run the final, be like, okay, that was a dominating performance.
No, there would have to be some extenuating circumstances for that to happen. Because they're going to come in last on every single leg of a final, unless there's some, like, the Spies, Lies, and Allies final, where all you have to do is get to the final leg, and then somebody gets run the wrong way by production, and then you somehow trot your way to the finish line.
I think if you literally sat down, if you're the producers, and tried to draw up a final that they would have the best chance to win relative to everyone else, I don't even know how you would do it.
Gauntlet 2?
Not even.
And it was something specifically that Anissa was the best at in the house. Like, what is Anissa the best at out of everyone in the house?
I mean, I would say she's pretty good at puzzles.
She's decent at puzzles. You would have to do like 10 puzzles where she only has to run 50 yards between each puzzle.
If they had a construction competition, Horatio was gone. I think Jordan probably is good at that.
Yeah. Or if they had a situation where, like, for instance, it was like a tag team final where one partner has to run and do all this chicanery and then tag his partner at the puzzle, and that way she doesn't have to run at all.
Like, Jordan does a lap, and then he hits Anissa, then Anissa does one, like, some carnival game, and then Jordan does another lap, and then Anissa does a carnival game. Like, that they could win.
Yeah.
We get a conversation between...
Let's not give them any ideas, by the way. You guys, producers,
I don't think that's that bad compared to some other stuff they've done.
We get a conversation between Fessy and Moriah. Fessy asks if Moriah will help her win on a guy's day, and Moriah brings up that Fessy didn't help her win on a girl's day, and then Fessy says that she didn't ask. And Moriah talks about, this is where we get a good indication of what's going to happen later in the episode. You get pretty much, if you watch everything before the mission and looked at all the conversations it had, you could pretty much predict exactly what the rest of the episode will look like and what the outcome will be like. Because this is where Moriah says that Johnny is her number one guy, and Fessy says that Moriah is still his ride or die. Devin gives his team a pep talk. Fessy says that his team, their morale is at an all-time high, and this is where Devin starts to call everyone dogs. We get to the mission. It's a helicopter mission. Let's just talk about the mission as a whole right now. Let's talk about what we think of it. We can summarize it by just saying that Fessy's team goes first. Everyone drops in place. They get the max amount of points. Moriah's team goes. They get the max amount of points. And it pretty much just comes down to the fact that Moriah's team was able to swim back faster. Did we enjoy this mission? Did we hate this mission? What did we like about it? What didn't we like about it?
I mean, at least it wasn't overly long, but I certainly was not, like, edge of my seat with this one.
I think this showed Fessy's strategies suck, like, completely. Because I don't understand why you would have your worst swimmers, on both teams, by the way, drop first. unless you just don't think they can hang on long enough. Because
They didn't.
I would think that you want your worst swimmers to swim the least amount of length, and you would want to put your best swimmers at the back so that they can make up ground. I did not understand any of this strategy at all.
Fessy said that they had Nelson and Chauncey go last because they were the worst swimmers, or someone said that on his team. That's why they went last. So they did
but
what
they
you're
put
saying.
Tori and Casey first, which made no sense to me. Like, if Fessy thinks he's the best swimmer, why is he and Bananas in the middle group?
I thought that was fine.
So do you hate what the other team did and having their best swimmers go last too then? Because by what you're saying, you would have to.
I did. They won by luck. Like, if they had just flipped it, they would have won by like a minute and a half.
Well, so also, I think the bigger thing with this mission is, so Bananas said the producers like screwed this up and they intentionally had Mariah's team win.
Well, that's what he says, and I actually believe him because you never get a clear shot. And the one shot you see, it looks like Jordan landed on the square, not inside the square. And so I'm not even sure that Jordan actually landed inside the target. And if he didn't land inside the target, then technically they didn't win.
Well, I think that there were some instances when Fessy's team went where it looked like people landed on the target and not inside too. So I didn't really know what the rule was there. What was the reason that Johnny gave about why they screwed it up or how they screwed it up?
He said Jordan missed the target. That's what he said. He said when Jordan dropped, Jordan did not land in the correct area and he should not have counted.
It's interesting. Definitely plausible. Definitely very believable.
And that's why he claimed then that when he saw the camera angles, you never got a clean shot of Jordan landing because they didn't want it to be seen.
That's part of referencing an earlier point. Johnny is one of the people who I think would not care so much about towing the line for production. I don't think he minds overstepping at various points.
But also at the same time, I think he just has a lot of equity with them, and a lot of what he does is to support production. We know that Johnny is John Murray's favorite character on the show, favorite person to ever be on the show. And everyone is aware of how much value he adds, that I think he just has a lot more. He just brings a lot more to the table than a lot of these other people do.
Do you think he'll be up to something at some point this season?
Define up to something.
I just feel like we haven't seen him do a lot yet. He's like made out with.
They haven't shown it. He's done a lot of stirring the pot stuff. They're just not showing it. Like he talks about it on his podcast, like how they missed this argument or they missed this fight or they didn't air this, they didn't air that. He's like, what's the point of me coming on the show? I mean, he didn't say this, but the vibe I got was, what's the point of having me on the show if you're not going to show the shenanigans you bring me on for?
Yeah, I'm almost part of me thinks now that I don't know if we can really judge any of the people that are on the show and what they really bring to the table as characters just because of the way that they edit the show now and how little they show us.
I feel like I'd want to just have them give me the tapes almost, or more than anything these past couple of seasons, and say, hey, let me just see what the actual content you guys have here is and how much you're leaving out.
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's just really vanilla, very basic storyline. It's really geared towards trying to make 8-year-olds understand what's going on. That's what it is.
Challenge for dummies.
Yeah. I think that the problem is, and I think I've said this on a previous podcast, you've got to quit giving a shit what the people on social media think. Like, seriously.
I really don't
think
it's
a loud voice. It is. It totally is, because these people, if they do something that offends somebody, there's going to be 400 people on Twitter retweeting and screaming about it. And they're worried that they won't be able to recast people if they show them in these worst moments because of the culture we have on social media now.
But like a lot of the content they had before was not stuff people would have been angry about on social media that they were airing, that they're not airing now, or that the way the style that they're airing it is it's not that they're not airing.
We are in a very different social climate than we were even 3 years ago.
But like a lot of the issues I think is like how much time they spend people walking in between scenes, or like we don't get just them being more creative with how the show is being aired. Like, we don't get, like, Bear talking about how lying is the best policy and explaining how he's just going to completely lie about what he's doing. Like, we don't get stuff like that. Like, I think that they're trying to they're trying to market towards the widest audience, but not from like a PC perspective. I think they're trying to make a very vanilla Hallmark product that's easy for people to digest.
Yeah, I
Which
think
is a
that's
mistake.
exactly what they're doing.
It's a
Yeah,
mistake.
I think
We
I
all
think it has
agree
nothing
with
to do
that.
with any. I think focusing on the social media part of it's really missing the point.
The only time that style of editing works in reality TV, in my opinion, is on The Amazing Race, because everything is about getting from place to place and performing and then getting to the next place. Like even Survivor, I have really not liked. I mean, I've liked some of the characters of the last couple of years, but as I've gone on, I really don't like what they have done in some ways to Survivor. They've really made it more about each person's existential crisis of the week. And then instead of seeing more of the political backstabbing gameplay, you just get like that elimination, that vote off came out of nowhere. And then you don't really hear the story behind it.
I will say I do think it very much works for a couple of different shows. I think that for like a Bachelorette show, like any sort of like love focus show like that, I think that type of editing has been shown to be pretty successful from what I have seen of those shows. For like a Love Island style show where it's all just it's just attractive people being gratuitous. Like that's what the show is. It works very well for that type of program. There's a lot of shows that I think thrive off of that type style of editing, and there's probably a lot of audiences even this show that I don't even know if you asked people if they said if they would prefer that type of editing, but if you actually put the two products in front of them, they would go for the vanilla over something with a bit more flavor.
And see, my point of all that is you can have both. You have 90 minutes of content to fill. 90 minutes. And even Challenge USA was edited better than this until the final. You know what I mean? Like they still showed conflict. They didn't show all of it. They didn't show Ben freaking out. They didn't show a few other things that occurred. But there was still enough conflict that they showed on screen that it at least made it interesting.
I just people don't want to say it.
They should just edit two versions of the show. They should have the one that they air on MTV and then just release another one on Paramount Plus.
I don't think they want.
You want to drive Paramount Plus? Yeah, if you want to drive subscriptions to Paramount Plus, you absolutely do that.
I don't think they want to use
how would that not?
I prefer.
I don't even know how many more resources is. That's just editing time, right? Like you don't really have to do anything else. I mean, like that would honestly solve almost pretty much everything, or a lot of the issues that we have with the show. That would be able to accomplish quite a few of them. And from their perspective, it would just be more money. They would. I'm sure they would probably be net positive on that when you take into consideration the amount of people that went to Paramount Plus and signed up and watched it.
Yeah, I've thought about that too. That'd be a really interesting idea to try out. Certainly, it'd be pretty. I feel like it'd be really similar to. You've seen a couple of sports teams do or channels airing
Monday Night
sports
Football.
where they'll have one version.
Like Eli and Peyton are doing
they'll have a Manning
commentary,
cast, or they might have like a betting focused version of the game versus just a more standard.
And then like for the national championship game, it's brilliant. You have the actual broadcast, you have a secondary broadcast, and then you have the round table broadcast where they bring in people like Urban Meyer to talk through the game. So,
can we get Trace at Cameo of Urban Meyer? Is he doing Cameo?
Fuck no.
I don't think he's on Cameo, unfortunately.
Fuck no.
What if we got?
I would give you this. It would be a brilliant prank, but you would be wasting your money because you would have to like wait to like film me reacting to that bullshit.
If we book like, because you can book business cameos, not just, but you can book a business cameo with a person like letting you use this for like the podcast. So they're usually pretty expensive. If we booked a business cameo of Urban Meyer introducing the show, would you allow us to put it on, Trace?
I mean, I would probably have to, because if you spent that much money on it,
it'd be probably like $2,300. Like it would not be cheap.
Oh yeah, if we were going to spend that kind of money, we'd be better off having Wes do it. I mean, come on.
Of course, we'd have, but yeah, I don't know how. I don't know. It's a very inside baseball thing.
What do you think? Let's take guesses. I already looked it up. Guess Urban Meyer's net worth.
Oh, it's got to be like $40 million.
I think it's higher. I think it's like 75 at least. I think it could even be over 100.
This is 35. I would have been with
really?
you, Rob. I think that's really low.
I don't think it's that low because think about it this way: when he like left Florida, he didn't get his full contract. He actually owed them money because he resigned rather than he got fired without cause, where they have to pay him everything. If you leave your college job and you get fired, but you get like all of your contract. If you get another head coaching job, you actually owe the previous school a balance. if you take another head coaching job.
Okay.
In some cases, now the contracts are
what money are they
structured
paying
towards the coaches?
What money are they paying him ahead of time? Like, what money is he paying back, or anyone paying back? I don't get what you're saying.
Bonuses and stuff that he gets. Like that's the thing. Like if that there's a lot of chicanery when it comes to those. It's not as bad as it used to be because now most of them are guaranteed deals. Like unless you get fired for cause nowadays, you get your full money.
We should probably keep this moving.
That wasn't even the case 6 years ago. But anyway, that's a big side.
Yeah, we should probably keep it. We're at 26
I don't care what you're saying.
5 minutes. So.
The fastest 5 is now 26.
No, I mean the fast 5 at this point is the whole fucking episode. I mean, like we can just
really is. we just take our rabbit trails.
Okay, well, let's keep rolling.
We come back to the list though.
We get back to the house after the mission. Nelson tells Fessy he's mad at himself. He says he's feeling like he needs to step up and be a captain after all his time on the show. Nelson names all the people on the other team that he sent in, and this is kind of where we see what we've talked about before, where earlier in the season, it really didn't make sense to win the missions and make enemies and have to throw all those people in. And we see that come back to bite Nelson, where a number of people said, Nelson, you sent me in. And he says...
a lot of people in.
Say it again?
He won twice.
You just had to send so many people in. Like, he just had... Like every time you were winning, you were burning 4 bridges.
Yeah. Nelson says, well... It was more than that. It was 8 bridges, right? Because it was
four.
Some of them repeated the next time, but at the very least, you pissed off 4 pairs every time you won.
Nelson says that he doesn't want him and Fessy to go in against each other again. And in the next scene, Johnny tells Casey and Chauncey that the other team's going to take a big swing. Chauncey says that he thinks Johnny is the only one that would save him in the dagger draw. And Moriah says that Nelson and Fessy would save each other. We get to the deliberation where Moriah's team goes in. So we saw TJ call Moriah's team the underdogs. Did Fessy's team give themselves a name?
I was going to ask that. When the kids showed up after they won the mission and said team underdog at the bottom. I was like, did I miss something where they called themselves that? I don't think
they did. They started calling themselves the underdogs during Devin's pep talk.
Okay,
no, the other team's
name. Does Fessy's team have a name?
No. They just started calling Devin's team the underdogs.
Which, again, it's going to bother me so much the whole season. Like, I don't get how they're.
Who knows? That's their team blue, their team pink, their team.
That's just so weird. Like, why?
It's like negligence.
I got nothing.
It's just like I just want to ask them why. Like they feel like remember Jerry Jones at one time said that like he had the Cowboys wear white when they were at home, so that like fans could use a different color every week, like get some flavor. Is that like the show starts for Noah Park at this point? We have to switch around the team colors because that's the only thing that's changing week by week.
Well, see, it would be one thing, and we've talked about this before. They do have challenge merch now. But if they actually made a conscious effort to create identities with these colors, then you could actually sell more of said merch.
They're not even changing jerseys,
they're not doing that. I know, and that's why it's so stupid.
They're team blue because they have a blue font on their helmet. Like, it's just...
and one week it was team yellow, and 1 week it was team pink. Like, it makes no fucking sense.
Rob, if you could have a jersey from any season of the challenge, which one would you want?
Oh, that's a good one. Which jerseys were the best? The free agents jerseys.
The free agents jerseys, which they also did again on the Invasion one for the champs, were incredible. The rugby style shirts, those were awesome.
War of the Worlds 1 jerseys I also think were good.
I think Greg has a few, if I remember.
He does.
Yeah, I don't remember which ones they are, but
he's purchased.
I would say, I think you know what I would say. I would definitely want a Gauntlet 3 veterans. I think that those are pretty slick.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the coolest merch I've heard Greg has is he has the sign from Ayana getting eliminated on Battle of the Sexes 2, I think.
That's pretty sick.
Greg will probably smite me on Discord later, but if that's not accurate. But I know he had like an elimination board, and I swear it was Ayana.
Interesting.
We get to deliberation. Jordan says that Devin's mind is spinning with all the possibilities of what they could do here. Devin says that it's in everyone's best interest to keep Chauncey on the other team. Rob, do you believe
his reasoning for this?
So, what do you think his reasoning was?
He's really just trying to like build a relationship with Amber. Like that seems. Is he just think Chauncey's bad?
It's because he's not good. I think that's why they want him on the other
team. Because Chauncey's bad. Okay.
Yes. What other reason would Devin have for that? And I don't get why they just didn't go ahead and state that. It doesn't make sense to me.
Wanting to help feels like he needs to keep a relationship with Amber for some reason. Like that's maybe he feels like the third team that's kind of isolated. So if he can like have them like him more than these other guys, then that would benefit him.
I think that is I think it's really more about who's going to save who in the draw. That's really what this comes down to. And I really think that Devin realizes Amber and Chauncey have no one watching their back. So if you make a deal or you're friendly towards them, then if you wind up in the draw or in a weird situation, you might be the only team they would save because everybody else just dismisses them.
Because it is interesting. Because I know 4 people in the. Oh, go ahead, Devin. Sorry.
I don't think that's enough of a reason to go out and literally show a piece of paper to your team that says Operation Save Chauncey. I think
that's just him trying to make TV. That's just him trying to. That's what he's doing.
Well, into like I'm even saying just like make a public display of that's what they need to do. I think that the
maybe
only
they talked about it previously.
I think that and I think the reason he would talk about it previously and talk about it there is because Chauncey isn't good and they want Chauncey on the team to be able to help their team continue to win. I think that's what makes sense.
In order for Devin to win, he needs Fessy or Bananas or both to go home. You know, like he really needs to make his odds better to go up. You get rid of Fessy or hopefully Bananas right.
I mean, look, if they run it in pairs, I think he and Tori beat Bananas and Nany and Fessy.
Well, I agree with you. I think that they're still going to wind up winning the season. Like, I don't dispute that. But when you're in the house and in the game, you're trying to give yourself the best advantage possible. And so I think that he's just trying to make sure that one of the heavy hitters goes home. That's it.
You think it's that much of a given that Tori and Devin would beat Fessy and Moriah in a final?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident they would win.
Why?
We just don't know what we have in Moriah as a runner. Like, we just don't.
She seems fine.
Maybe part of it's me just getting entranced by the edit, but like I feel like I just have a hard time seeing them win in that scenario. I think we've seen Fessy have a couple issues in previous finals. Mariah's very unproven in terms of what she can do in finals and from an endurance perspective. They did win that mission earlier. That was pretty close to a final. So maybe I shouldn't be.
Let's go. Let's just go ahead and go into this now. I heard on a podcast that Moriah and Fessy barely knew each other before this season. And the only reason Fessy brought her is he felt like she would be good for helping him win in a final type situation for running kind of thing. And so like a lot of the reason that he's treating her the way he does is he literally has no emotional attachment to her whatsoever.
I mean, Nelson said,
I think that's going to screw him. You go ahead and finish that. Go ahead and finish that, and then I'll jump back.
So Nelson just said, she can squat 200 pounds. That's why Fessy brought her.
Yeah. And I think that what's going to happen is Fessy is just dumb when it comes to this game. Like, he really is dumb. Like, I don't care what anyone says. His strategies make almost zero sense to me most of the time. I have a feeling that Moriah is going to go in next week and go home, and then when the purge comes around, she's going to lose, and Fessy's going to get sent packing.
So
that's my prediction.
So what do you think? What has Fessy done recently that you think to yourself that is a dumb move?
I think for this season, his dumb move is really just treating Moriah not well. Like, you know, there's a reason that people like Bananas, okay, they're putting us in teams. Season's called Ride or Dies. We're probably going to get back together at some point. You don't call the season Ride or Dies and there's not some twist with it. And so Fessy is acting like he and Moriah are not going to have to work together at all through the rest of the season. And he is making decisions that he's not like he was telling her they need to throw it so to keep him safe, which is the correct move. But he's not explaining it to her in a way where she realizes, oh, yeah, that is the correct move. Instead, she's like, no, we're going to win. And Fessy's like, and then he just rolls his eyes and moves on instead of actually trying to engage her about playing this game the correct way.
So what you're saying is that it should be obvious to everyone that they're going to get back together as Ride or Die.
Yes. When have they ever done a format switch like this on the main show and not gone back? Like Spies, Lies, and Allies. They started as partners, pairs. They went to 3 teams, and then they went back to partners for the final. Okay?
I don't think it's...
Double agents.
I mean, I don't think
Go
it's
ahead.
unreasonable for them to think that they could not be in teams but have a different format that emerges. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that it would be individuals. I don't think it's unreasonable to think that they break off teams, and then there's some draft where they pick partners. There's some like just like, hey, you say who the person you feel the closest to in the house is, and they pick partners that way. I don't think any of those options are at all unreasonable.
If you have been on this show and you have even watched more than 2 seasons of this show, you would have to be Mr. fucking Magoo to not know that this team's format ain't sticking around the whole season.
No, I don't think anyone thinks this team's format is sticking around the whole season. Like, I would be shocked if one person thought that they were going teams all the way to the bitter end.
Mm-hmm. And it shows to me, like, think about the conversation at the beginning of the episode with Bananas and Nany. All right, I said it was a sweet moment. Maybe it was genuine. Maybe it's fluff, whatever. Johnny's smart enough to know in the back of his mind, hey, this team format ain't going to last forever, and I don't know what the next format is going to be, but it's probably in my best interest to make sure Nany's still here and that she and I are still in a good place. Whereas Fessy, he's just setting the bridge on fire.
All right, Devin says
and that's my point. Sorry, that's my point. He just does not think long term.
I don't think he's really done anything overly bad this season. I think he's played a fine game this season.
I think his biggest weakness is it just seems like a lot of people don't like him. Like, which I don't know if there's like being dumb, but I think he may lack the capability to really build up social relationships for whatever reason that he didn't already have coming into the show. I think that's by far his biggest thing because I don't see him do anything really tactically that can be like, okay, that's moronic. Like, he's not somebody who I'm like, oh, he has no clue what he's doing from a strategic perspective. I think he certainly should do a better job of keeping Moriah both in his good graces, and he should have done. I mean, he gave himself a good team, but I think he should have realized that wasn't that like going to be that important. Like, I think that's just a lack of experience on the show, probably. But I certainly don't look at him and be like, okay, he's an idiot, especially compared to a lot of people that cast on the show.
Yeah, I would agree exactly with what you said. So we get to the deliberation. We're still in the deliberation. Amber says that Johnny would probably save Chauncey the most. Nany says that she's okay with sending Nelson in out of all of the guys that are available. And Moriah says that she won't say Fessy's name, more foreshadowing for what is to come. We get all the people coming in for interrogation. Chauncey comes in. Nany asks who he would save. Chauncey doesn't want to give a name. They say that they're not trying to trick him. Johnny comes in. Horatio asks why he shouldn't be the direct vote. Johnny says that Fessy has outperformed him at pretty much every point this season, which I think is a good argument to put out there. Nelson comes in. He says that he doesn't want to go into the zone, but when Devin asked him who he would save between Johnny or Chauncey, I don't think he really gives a direct response. Everyone always kind of like talks around who they would save if they were in the draw for the most part.
Of course.
And Fessy comes in and he had his shirt blurred out for some reason. I'd be curious to know what was on his shirt.
Braun sponsored t-shirt by mistake. I think it was advertising a celebrity basketball game coming up later this year.
Should we go? Where is it?
I don't know. It's somewhere in Miami.
I'm not going to that shit. I'm not spending the money to go to that shit.
How much do you think tickets cost? If I put over under at $15,
they have VIP seating for a 300 seat venue, which I'm curious as to like where you're sitting for it to be a VIP seat. Are you like it's on the bottom of this floorboard? Like where are you sitting? That's such great seats behind the backboard.
No, you get to go on the court. Like you know how in those like and one mixtape videos where there's the guy like on the microphone like in the action, that gets to be you.
Okay, are you gonna be like the entourage for one of the teams and part of the entourage?
You get to play horse. You get to play horse with Fessy, or you get to hold his jacket when he takes off his.
He also claims that they're having some of the best dunkers in the world there. So I don't know if this is just like YouTube.
Oh, I'm sure he's claiming.
But I guess it's probably just like YouTube. There are some like YouTuber type of people, do these like wrist, just like crazy dunk that they can't dribble. So maybe that's what it is. But I'm very curious about that too.
Fessy comes in. Devin asks him who he would save between Chauncey and Bananas. Fessy does not give a name. Moriah's team talks about who they should save. Moriah doesn't like Devin's plan because it puts the other guys in jeopardy, and she says that it really seems like it's going to come down between Fessy and Nelson. Devin, in the next scene, We get a conversation between Devin and Jordan where they talk about what is the right choice here, who should they put in directly, and Jordan, and I think Rob, you initially talked about this a while ago, and I definitely agree with you that you just have to put someone in elimination enough, and they're going to lose. It's just a matter of time, and this is what Jordan brings up is kind of credence to why Fessy would potentially be a good idea to throw him in. Devin asks who would be the best person to throw in to give the girls the best chance to be able to stay in the game, which I also think is a good idea, right? They're thinking long term about what's going to be able to help them win down the road. And we get a spliced in confessional here from Tori where she says that it's pretty clear that Fessy might be the direct vote. We get a scene where everyone's at the pool. We get a scene where Chauncey and Amber are talking with each other in bed, and Amber says that Chauncey will most likely be in the draw. And then we get a conversation, which we find out is a couple hours before elimination, where Fessy and Jordan are talking with each other. And Jordan says that he's not going to vote for Fessy, but don't make a guarantee of that. And Fessy says that he wants to believe Jordan because he has really no reason to lie to him at this point in time. And then it's really these two confessionals right before elimination, which kind of make the episode. The one that we just talked about, and then this conversation between Tori and Jordan, where Tori says that she has heard that Jordan can be the swing vote, and that she stuck her neck out for Jordan, and that he essentially needs to pay it forward with voting the way that she wants at this point in time and not putting in Fessy. Jordan says that Tori is using their relationship as a pawn to incentivize him to vote the way that she wants. And Jordan tells Tori that he's pretty much considering everything and he knows how difficult of a decision this is. We get to elimination.
Just really quickly, so on this scene, so he says that she's using her personal relationship in this. I don't see that as much. I mean, obviously, look, anything they do between the two of them is going to have their personal relationships a part of just because it is. But pretty clear, it seemed more like a political thing to me long term. Of like two episodes back, she worked to keep Jordan's name out, and then in part with that was that he would keep Fessy's name out later. He didn't really seem to agree to that ever, but that does seem to be what happened.
I really do think that. So, are you saying that you don't see? You're saying that you don't see how she's trying to use emotionally their relationship as kind of a stick? Because I definitely think she does.
I do.
I would say that's going to charge every single action that they do, but I do think he's not necessarily addressing what she's saying.
Yeah, he never discussed it, right? He never brings it up. And I think you said that he didn't even bring it up. He didn't even necessarily agree to it. Because I think initially, now that I think about it more, he even said that he's going to do what's best for his team earlier on.
He said that'd be a confessional. And then when he was talking with her, he was like, what we were shown was that he was like, I'm not going to agree to that necessarily. But she did seem to do that a couple episodes back. And I don't really know how you want to handle that. Like, I think at that point, if he didn't agree to do it and she went ahead and did it, then he's not wrong for not following through. But I do think that he's not addressing what she's saying by saying she's using her personal relationship, because I think there was more going on in this.
Probably. And at the same time, like, this is one of my biggest issues with Tori, is she seems to play the game often from a standpoint of, I need my friends to do what's best for me, not necessarily what's best for them. And of course, that's like the smart way to play it politically, but she's just not good at that part of it. Like, she really, like, there's no argument that can be made to Jordan that Fessy shouldn't be down there. Like, there's not. Like, what argument can she present to him to save him? Like, is there one?
I mean,
because I can't come up with a reason.
Well, I think that the argument would be 2 episodes back, you were going to be voted in. We decided about Horatio in instead, with the idea that we would both keep each other's stronger players around, looking on in the future. I think she and Fessy probably have some sort of side agreement as well to go along with that. That would be, I think, her argument.
Let's talk about this now. Let's talk about the decision for Moriah's team to vote in Fessy. I think this is absolutely the right move, especially for the men, because they don't know how much they're going to win again, and they don't know if the times that they do win are going to happen to be on a guy's day. I think they have to take this shot now. I think the only argument that you can make for why it may not necessarily be a great idea is that once you get to elimination and you see what the mission is, you can kind of tell that this is going to be an elimination where the big guy beats the little guy. I think that's the only argument that you can make. But I think seemingly on the surface, when you isolate that away, you have to take your shot.
My
Jordan said it.
I think I'd rather have Bananas out almost as much as Fessy, and I think he'd have a much better chance of losing this elimination than Fessy did.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Probably. And I think that Jordan made the correct point, too, earlier when he and Devin were talking. He's like, you have to keep throwing them in, and eventually they go home. And he made the point of, like, Fessy's only been in 4 eliminations, and he's like, I want to see Fessy do something that's not a hall brawl or a pole wrestle.
And that's essentially what he got, right? It was another strength-based elimination. I think Fessy beats every single guy probably in the house in this. I think Johnny loses to every single one on their team in this elimination.
Except for maybe Chauncey. I just don't know what we have with Chauncey.
Yeah, I think that coordination has played a decent amount of part in this, and like technique. I don't know if Chauncey would have that, but he certainly could lose to Chauncey in this.
I don't know. I don't think coordination is coming much into play here. Like once you kind of figure out you need to just do it at an angle.
Yeah, regardless of what happened, Fessy was going to win this because of his size and strength. Like there's just no way to beat that.
It didn't look like it was close. I mean, how many spears did you beat him by? Like 2 or 3?
Like 4. No, I think it was even more than that.
It was 4.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't even like remotely a contest. I'm almost kind of even surprised that they showed us that it was that big of a gap and that they didn't just, put different numbers on the screen.
At one point they showed Fessy had 7 and Nelson had 4.
So we get to the voting. Jordan goes first. I thought it was interesting that they had Jordan vote first. He says that, and I guess now that I think about it more, I do understand why they did.
What is he wearing to this elimination, by the way?
He has like a cowboy hat on. What do you mean?
Okay, I was thinking of something.
Well, he was wearing like the weird shawl before that. It was very strange.
That was what I was thinking. Okay,
Jordan's fashion choices just boggle my mind on a weekly basis.
I kind of dig that
he's a beautiful man, and he does everything he can to make himself look stupid at times.
He's just going 100%, man. Whatever the look he's in, he's into it 100%.
Jordan says that he was planning on.
He had with the overalls.
Jordan says that he was planning on playing this straight up until an hour ago. He said that until someone tried to use their personal relationship as a hostage, and he says that he does not negotiate with terrorists, and that his vote will be for Fessy. I thought that was a great moment. I think that's probably, for me, one of the moments of the season to this point in time.
I mean, it's very entertaining. I also think it's relatively self-destructive.
Yeah, but that's Jordan.
That's Jordan's game, though. We talked about this before. He just can't help himself.
He really can't. Because it feels like the other team's gonna be winning a lot of missions. I don't know if you want to piss them off that much.
Jordan literally says the reason he did this is because Tori didn't want him to do it. He says that in the confessional.
You look back and
I think there's a way that he can potentially do that and try and patch the bridge with Tori and not make it so that she's screaming at him across the stand where the contestants stand at elimination.
Why do I get a feeling when they get back to the house?
Yeah, I can see where she had a bunch of mental health rehabilitation to do after this season.
Yeah, I can understand her needing to take a break. Because, good Lord, I feel like the first couple scenes of next episode has to be them fighting. There's no way around that, right?
I don't know.
They might not show it, but it happened.
Well, the other thing, though, that's weird is, now, on her Instagram, they're together, all the time.
Right now?
Not right now, but, when she's posting pics, he's involved. It's, a group of 6, and he's always there. I think they're, a movie together.
Yeah, when they were, in London, they were posting pictures of them going to, the phone booth and doing that kind of touristy crap together and stuff. But, anyway.
Amber votes for Nelson. Devin votes for Fessy. Nany votes for Nelson. Horacio votes for Fessy. It comes down to Moriah. She can force a tie between Nelson and Fessy. She decides that she's going to vote for Chauncey, which, I don't know. Let's talk about this. If she votes for Chauncey, and they're of the belief that they're not going to get back together as ride or dies, I don't think that's a bad move at all. I mean, I think that's probably what she should do.
Well, what's her operating belief then at that point?
That it
The
could go.
Riders don't matter anymore?
All right, so honestly, I think that there's.
This
probably
is why I say
three,
Fessy is not playing this well.
I think that there's realistically 3 different options, right? I think that they could go to individuals. I think that they could go into some other types of pairs, or they could go back into ride or dies, and that their ride or die is waiting for them. I think in their minds that is the least likely opportunity, and I think that's what it should be, is the least likely opportunity. I think the other 2 are more likely, but I think the last option is an option.
I don't know. I think you force the tie. I definitely think you do. I think you just make too many
Why?
waves. Right. I think you just make too many waves. I think you burn the bridge with Fessy, who, like, I know that they've really had some discord between the 2 of them, but I certainly still think that he, outside of Johnny, would have her back just about as much as anybody else. It doesn't seem like she's made a ton of other relationships in the house outside of Johnny. And like, I don't see what is she like. So she's just trying to make their team worse, I guess, in the future. And like Fessy did say, Fessy did also say, like, he said, "Hey, are you going to throw the mission for me?" And he implied in the future that if she wanted him to throw the mission for her, he would be receptive to that. I think she should have just done that.
I think she just wants to make her team stronger, so it's more likely that they win. Especially when you consider the fact that the next mission is going to be a female mission round for elimination.
I think this is going back towards the beginning of the episode. I think she would have been better saying, "I'll just do what I can to throw the mission." Do that. Yeah, do that, and then have Fessy do it again the next week. I think she would have been much better off.
I think that's a more optimal choice for sure. I definitely think that would be better.
And then now outside of Johnny, who I think Johnny's priority is still keeping Nany around over Moriah, and those might come into like contention at some point. I just think that nuking Fessy like this is not a good idea.
It's a terrible political decision for multiple reasons, but the big one really does come down to like let's throw out the fact that we're pretty sure this is going back. We know as viewers this is going to go back to ride or dies. We know as viewers that's what's coming. They don't know that. But by saying Nelson's name and tying it up, she literally loses nothing. Nerys is gone. So who's going to be mad if she votes for Nelson? Nobody.
Yeah, Cody was a divided issue amongst her team. Like, if their team was unanimous on one decision, it wouldn't have mattered. But her team was divided.
And
honestly,
Devin kind of, I think,
that.
floated.
Your team, I didn't get
Devin
that. Like, your
floated
team
the idea.
Your team can't get on the fucking same page with who to vote here. Like, I feel like this should be like a unanimous thing, unless beforehand they literally went over exactly who was going to vote for who, and they just knew that this was going to be before they voted.
Yeah,
that would be weird. I mean, I can see it in scenarios where there's like if Devin doesn't want to vote Nelson because he and Nelson are friends, so he'll throw a stray vote onto Fessy or Chauncey, and then everybody else votes for Nelson. That would make sense to me. Mm-hmm. But if that's not happening, dude, like I don't get it.
I was so waiting for Amber V to vote for Fessy. All right, we get to the dagger draw. Johnny doesn't pick the safe dagger. Chauncey picks the safe dagger. He chooses to save Johnny. Chauncey says that Nelson has been lying to him the whole time. And that's one of the reasons why he didn't pick Nelson, which I thought was interesting. And then we get the elimination spearhead. We've kind of talked about it to this point. Wasn't really close. Fessy blows out Nelson. Nelson goes home. Fessy, I guess Nelson handles losing well. He says he apologizes to his fans. We get the moment where Nelson leaves and says goodbye to Olivia. And Nelson says that he hopes that they can pursue things after the game. And Nelson finds Nerys waiting for him. Or I guess TJ tells Nelson and Nerys Nelson that he would have had a chance to go in or get back into the game if he wouldn't have lost, and that Nerys was waiting for him. And now that they're both eliminated, they're officially eliminated from the game. Into the episode. Closing thoughts before we get out of here.
Yeah, the only thing that could have made the Nelson exit better is if Meg Ryan and Nick Cage walked out, because they were playing the song from City of Angels, the Goo Goo Dolls song. That they're trying really hard for people to love Nelson to get his eventual win so that it's like a payoff down the line. I just think that's not the person I would necessarily put my money on to make win.
He's just one of the people to have around, so like rally around. He's around
Rob,
every year.
if you had to bet yes or no on Nelson winning throughout his entire time on the show, on the main show, would you bet? I don't know. I guess we could even include All Stars, because I would almost say that he might have a worse chance at winning All Stars than he does the main show. Would you bet yes or no for his chances to win?
I mean, I feel like this was kind of his shot, right? Like he had a really
Yeah, this was it.
All this weekend. This was his time, man. It was either this or Invasion.
If they had stayed pairs, it
season.
might have been. That's the thing. If they'd stayed pairs, it might have been.
Look, these finals suck. Like there could be another situation where he's paired with like Ashley when she's off hiatus, and then they could win. I guess like those are the things that could happen. But I definitely, I would lean no. Unfortunately, I just don't think that's gonna happen for him.
Yeah, I just don't see it at this point. When we talk about Nelson's chances to win before this season and about his future on the show and what it would take for him to win, everything that we said it would take for him to win, having a good partner, having a partner that's good at puzzles, having a partner that is kind of there for him as a support system, this was all of that, and it still didn't happen. He just has a lot of clearing flaws, and I think that's what's going to make it difficult for him to win.
Do we think Nerys is back? I hope she is, but I don't know that it's a given.
Yes, she better be.
They just don't recast anybody anymore. They have their vacation crew. That's been the case since Total Madness, and then they get like a rookie added every year.
I don't know. I think she'll. If I had to bet yes or no on that, I think she's probably back on. How often is she on? Who knows?
I don't know. I mean, I guess they tried to recast Emmy and Emmanuel this season. It didn't work out because of some Emmy's off-screen behavior. Mm-hmm. But it just seems like they have not shown a lot of interest in bringing these people back on and time again. And she's a little bit different because she and Johnny Middlebrook and Annalise were all very much in casting rooms for a long time before this. It was not the first time she was around. So perhaps that speaks to where she might be a little bit more in the mix, especially after she's proven mm-hmm. herself to be a character to some degree on this season. But I don't think it's a guarantee she's back.
Yeah. I have a prediction that has nothing to do with this season, but just based on some news that I read and then poked around a little bit on. Challenge USA Season 2, I'm calling it right now. The return of Polly is Challenge USA Season 2.
We'll see.
It's a bold prediction, considering the season hasn't even started yet. And like this guy's like a
well, they've got availability calls going out. They've got availability calls going out.
He gets calls, though. He doesn't get casted.
Yeah, he's gotten calls. I mean, I think it's a matter of time. I don't think Kara's coming back, but I think he will. And I had heard that CBS people that have been on the main show are eligible for Challenge USA Season 2. So and it's probably because some people like Tyson definitely aren't coming back after the way they felt their time on that show was. So I think that to make the Challenge USA Season 2 cast have some veteran presence, there is a high likelihood that you will see a Polly, a Josh, something like that. And I really, truly believe they're going to cast Polly for Season 2 of Challenge USA.
Better chance of being casted, Polly or Josh?
Josh, for sure, but I think Polly's going to make it.
I don't know if they're both on the same season.
They have to. How much would... If you could have anyone from Survivor come on, Rob, who would you want to come on?
Not Tyson again?
You can have anyone. Yeah, would he be it? Would he be the number one person you would want to have on?
Yeah, I feel like with him there's a proven idea that it works, which I appreciate. Tony Vlachos, of course, would be very fun to have on TV again. I don't know what he'd really be doing, though. Like, I don't think he'd be, like, blowing through missions like Tyson was.
I want Coach.
I think those are the two. I think it's Tony and I think it's Coach. I think those are the two.
Coach, really?
Can you imagine Coach trying to lead like meditation sessions for the whole house?
Tony.
Like, this crazy things.
I think Coach is more of an athlete, though.
Like, I think Coach is like old. Like, Tony isn't like that old. We've been over this before.
How old is Coach?
He's got to be like late 50s.
That's pretty old.
Tony's
I don't think
49.
Okay. 49 is also
Uh,
pretty old, dude.
Well, how old's CT? Like 43?
He's 42, 43.
Man, he is old though.
I guess Coach isn't that old. I guess it says he's 51.
Okay, so it's not much older at all then. Those would probably be the two.
I mean, they had freaking Enzo on season 1, so I mean, Coach is not far fetched compared to Enzo.
I mean,
How would we feel
Rob,
if Abby Maria showed up?
Rob, guess how old Tyson is?
Like 47?
He's 39.
No, he's older than that, bro.
Did you shoot really high just because I was asking? 47.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
He's 43, which I would thought was that's older.
I
than
knew
I
he
would
was in
guess,
his
for
40s.
sure.
I knew he was not in his 30s. I knew he was definitely mid 40s.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything else?
I think we're good to get rolling.
I don't think so.
Have a good, happy fucking New Year, everyone. Stay safe. Hope everyone's enjoying the holidays. We'll talk to you again soon. Bye.
Bye.